Good evening. My name is Minister Banks, Sr. I'm the Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. A Knock at Midnight is located at 400 West 76th Street on the second floor. It is really great to be back, sharing information with the viewing audience and just talking a little bit about what we're doing, but more importantly, what's going on in and around the world by which we live. There's so many issues that's affecting the times. There's so many things that each one of us could grab on to as something we could work on to not change our nation, change our state, change ourselves, change our communities. We are really in a good time, as if I can quote, it seems like it's the best of times, but also it's the worst of times. And we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna open that up to the viewing audience for discussion. And please call in as we start getting into the whole reality of the demise, or the crumbling, or the imploding of our communities. Chicago is one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Our children are dropping at enormously fast rates. The clip by which young people are violated through the use of guns or other forms of violence is astronomical. And as we deal with all of the violence around the world and other parts of this country, it's time for us to just kind of stop dialoguing about it. Just get out here. Let's find out what we can do to make a change, whether it's a change in you, or change in your community, or another change as a whole. We have to get to the point where we're not struggling with what to do, because we need to do something right now. Again, my name is Minister Banks, Sr. I'm the Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. Over at A Knock at Midnight, we're doing a lot of positive things, working with the youth, working with the community, providing alternatives and opportunities for our children to stretch themselves and to see something different. We are really teaching them the nuances of what was Dr. King's life all about, but what was he teaching? People are really in tune with his speeches and in tune with the things that he wrote, but what was he really teaching, and what was he trying to get across to people? It's amazing to me how I work at a particular school in Inglewood, and since the 1st of June until now, there have been 25 students shot. 4 of them have been killed just in one school. Around the perimeter of the school, we've had either that many shootings and killings or triple that amount. The stats are kind of hard to come by because so many people are being hurt or injured through gun violence. We're going to have to take a stand, and I like to use the Trayvon Martin case as the example of what's going wrong. The Trayvon Martin case really hinges on justice, whether the young man is going to be able to get justice. Was the perpetrator going to get justice? Who's going to get justice? What is justice in this case? I look at that case. I don't say a lot about it because I can see clearly that the case is not the problem. The people are rallying, and the cry of the people is based on the fact that it seems to be an injustice in Florida. But if you go to one of the main teachings of Dr. King, he'll simply say something like this: an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So when we get an injustice in Chicago, or an injustice in Philadelphia, or an injustice in New York, and the people do not move to eradicate the injustice, then it's a stretch to justice everywhere. So young men like this young Martin child loses his life, and now we are all bent out of shape, and we want to make it racial, but it's really not racial because the young man was not white. They say, he's a white Hispanic, and I guess I could be a black white. I don't know, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What really makes sense to me is that when you allow an injustice to go on in your house, and let me, it's an injustice to live in America and not receive an education. Personal injustice. It's an injustice to live in America and systems that offer an inferior education, and injustice. So the people that's receiving the inferior education at some point have to then respond to the fact that what they're getting is not what they need to be what God created them to be, and also thrive in a country that's supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. So our struggle, you all, is not so much with what happened in Florida. It's an injustice. It's an injustice for a young lady to bring a child into this world that she is incapable of developing, incapable of parenting, incapable of bringing this child up to be what they were created to be. It's an injustice for a young man to plant his seed in this world and have no idea of how to take care of that kid. And matter of fact, doesn't even seem to care about the development of the child. So we have underdeveloped, ill-developed, or non-developed inhabitants now who are running around trying to figure out what to do and what to do next. And we simply, you viewing audience, have to ask ourselves some simple questions. Why have we allowed the injustices to go on for so long? Why won't we fight back? Why won't we fight back? Why won't we stand up and say enough is enough? And the strange thing about it is when we see the vestiges of people who are trying to stand up, we always shout them down or have negative things to say about them or whatever the case may be, when it's really, really sad. It's really, really sad. And so we have to stand up. So we look for answers. And the answer is really simple as this. The injustices that we allow, we must stop them on our own. The things that we go along with, we disagree with, but we go along with it. We don't like it, but we go along with it. We think it's wrong, but we go along with it. These are the problems that emanate from not seeking justice for all. So we allow the injustices to continue, and the injustices have continued, and they have continued. And then we will rally around Trayvon Martin. Darian Abbott was murdered here, and invested in so many other children, and still we asleep at the wheel. There is nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to run. You know, we must stand up and start to bring in jobs for these young men and these young women so they can have an opportunity to be successful and to take care of themselves in this country. So we have to create jobs. We cannot keep waiting on somebody else to create jobs for our children. We cannot keep waiting on somebody else to do something. All of the black business owners, you must employ the children that look like you. You must bring them in, give them job skills, people skills, how to talk and dialogue and discuss themselves and their future. That's called, a lot of that is the soft skills in employing our youth. We must do something about the bottom line. This is not only a financial problem. This is a disenfranchisement problem. This is a lack of empowerment problem. And some of us have the power to do something about it. We just won't. If our children need to be employed, if they're asking you, then what do? You simply try to find the means necessary to help out those who need help. So we're struggling. Like I said before, it's the best of times. It's also the worst of times. And we could get into a lot of things, but what we're doing at A Knock at Midnight is we're working feverishly on violence prevention from a perspective of educating young kids, working with them, but also putting them in an environment where they can thrive, where they can not only be safe, but they also can talk to and discuss with their peers what it's like to deal with violence from a perspective of this is how you solve it. You know, and many of those things, many of those conflicts show up because people are not capable of solving their own problems. And injustice has to be dealt with, but it has to be understood. It has to be understood, and we're not doing a very good job carrying that message and getting people to really understand that nobody dictates your behavior. Nobody really sets you up to fail. We set ourselves up to fail. That we must get back on track. Do some of the simple things that we all know we're supposed to do. Not things that we think we're supposed to do, but the things that we're supposed to do. My name is Minister Johnny Banks. I'm the Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. We're simply talking about the issue of the time, the violence that's permeating all around our city. As we see more heavy patrolling of police officers, as we see people coming together. One of the things that we're working on over in the Inglewood community is the Helping Hands of Inglewood. The community organizations have decided to get together and band together, try to pool some resources and use all of their strength as a group to make something, make a change in an Inglewood community where where all the services that needed can be provided, and they will be more concentrated based on the expertise of all of the coalition members. I think it's a great opportunity, and it's going to provide some opportunities as well as bear fruit for the people in the Inglewood community, because it's not enough to have a lot of people running around doing a lot of things, but they're not getting anything done. So we have to work to get something done. And so Helping Hands right now is a collection of organizations, Children's Home and Aid Society, Antioch Baptist Church, Liberated Incorporated, A Knock at Midnight. All of us, we just banded together. Several other organizations, we've all banded together and said, okay, we need to do something different. If not us, then who? And so we took that and we're running with it. And so that thing is getting up and it's getting ready to do what it's supposed to do, which is actually be a hub, not only for the services in the community, but a hub for the revitalization of a people, because the people need to be revived. And so this is going to be a great opportunity for all the service providers to work together to get something done. Again, my name is Minister Johnny Banks. Our call-in number is 312-738-1060. We're going to take a call if we have any. Well, we're going to keep going. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit more about the where does all of this stuff come from? As we sit, and you would have to just kind of think about that things are really not that much different than they have been in the past. The violence is it comes from the same source. It's just a different brand, and it's all based on something as far as what I like to say is the unequal distribution of wealth. As we've watched the cases unfold with the violence, and we've seen a lot of things go on in front of us. One of the things that we don't say a lot about, and I'll give you a good example, is things that are current, that are going on. One of the most important things of our generation is unfolding right before us, which is this whole thing with the healthcare reform and the healthcare laws and the Supreme Court voting it up or voting it down. If people are not engaged in that fight, then healthcare for many people is going to be like stone aging. It may regress to a point where it's worse than it is right now, where we still don't have the opportunities to seek health care as we need to. It has become much, much more unaffordable. Many of the situations that we find ourselves in, and it is an injustice in America for a person not to be able to care for themselves, and when they need help, to go get the help that they need. That in itself is an injustice. We need to stand up. So as we start looking at the things that happen around you all, viewing audience, ask yourself, is this an injustice? Is this right? Because if it's not right for me, it's not right for you. And we need to take a look at that. We need to really focus on the whole question of, is an injustice anywhere a threat to justice everywhere? We have a caller. We'll take that caller. Yes, caller.
Oh, yes. My name is Mr. Kuyate. I just want to tell you that what you said earlier about us not jumping on stuff that's happening right around in Chicago, I don't know if you heard, but some 80-year-old man had got shot in his own house. Police came, and he told the police he knocked his security alarm, and it's supposed to be, but you haven't heard nothing else about it. The news ain't said nothing else about it.
Uh-huh.
And to me, they sweep stuff up under the rug that they don't want the media to hear about.
Okay.
And that's just going right back to what you just said about hot stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The 80-year-old man that lived in Inglewood that shot a burglar, they let him go. It was self-defense. It was on the news. They put it in the paper. It was on. They let him go because the burglar was in his home, violating his home, and he had no recourse at that age except for to try to defend him and his 75-year-old wife. These people live in Inglewood, right around 63rd and Morgan, up in that area. And I don't condone the violence. I would even suggest that all parties involved in that need to be take a look at what they're doing, because this is the problem that we're having. Do we have to defend ourselves to the degree where we injure someone or take another person's life? That's a question that we all have. See, if you go theological, and I'll use a theological interpretation. There was a man showed up and he said, "Listen, out of all the commandments that have been laid down, the greatest of these is love. That's why I tell you should love your brother as yourself." Now, since we don't care and then it must be, maybe theologically we could put the facts together, because if we deal with practical theology, it's just deal with facts. And if we just deal with the facts, if what I just said is true, then since we don't have any self-love, we don't have any brotherly love. And if we don't have any brotherly love, we don't have any group love. And if there's no group love, there's not any national love. So we are finding ourselves imploding based on the fact that the principles by which this country was governed, was brought forth on, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is not being met. We're not getting a whole lot out of it. But let's take another caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, brother, and you're absolutely right. I just wanted to ask you about the Trey Martin case.
Okay.
Don't you think that man should have been prosecuted on the grounds that he violated the law when they told him to stay in his car, do not pursue after that young man? Ain't it some way that we can stand up and say that guy himself had violated the law when they told him, we're on our way, please do not pursue after him? If he would have obeyed the law and, like you said, loved his neighbor as himself, we wouldn't even be discussing this case. That's what's wrong with us. Like you said, we don't know how to love our neighbors as ourselves. We don't want to follow the commandments that God have laid down. He say, thou shalt not, and we say, thou shalt do what we want to do. So I want to thank you again for implementing those moral laws. Thank you, sir.
Okay, let me respond a little bit. When we start dealing with the law, we have to deal not only with the laws that govern man, but the laws that man has set forth to govern himself and others. There are some universal laws that man did not set forth, but there are also some laws that man has set forth to govern himself and keep us kind of where we need to be in terms of how we coexist together. In Florida, they have a different kind of law when it comes to guns. So in Florida also, just like in any other state in America, you are innocent till proven guilty. And we don't know if the man going to be able to ever get proven guilty. But that is not the point. The point is, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So we don't even know if justice is going to get served. And the strange thing about justice, caller, is this. We've heard so many times that justice is blind. If that's true, then why do we have the blind leading the blind? Justice must now have the eyes of spirituality, the mental fortitude to see what it's supposed to see and judge it accordingly. There's something called, when you're dealing with law, there's something called the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. These are two different ways of dealing with the same case. I'll give you an example. A person goes in a grocery store and steals because he's hungry. Another person goes in the grocery store and steals because he wants to make some money. Both of them get caught and go before a judge. The chances are, and the judge will respond in this way. He'll ask the first person, why did you steal? I was hungry. Okay, you need to use these social services that we have for you, get you what you need, and stop violating people's stuff, because he understands that a hungry man is not trying to harm anybody, he's trying to eat. We go to the second person, who is stealing to make money. That's criminality of another degree, and the letter of the law states so. So when we start dealing with laws, we have to understand the laws that govern man based on those set here by man. You know, and once we understand those, then the universal laws even become easy, because we'll understand that the greatest of all those laws is something called cause and effect. What you put out is what you get back. You know, so we need to take a look at that. We got any more callers? Yes, caller.
Hello?
Good evening.
Okay, my name is William Perkins.
How you doing, sir?
And thank you and your
Okay.
conversation. I'm glad I caught in. I came a little late on it. And I know you've already explained a lot of things, but I think it comes from family. Where's the man? Where's the lady? Where's the family? And then we say, love is beautiful. Respect is more than most. And the law of God, a lot of people don't read the Bible. If you understand the Bible, it will give you the law. Don't take a life. And as you said about stealing, if you steal or kill, it's against the law, especially killing. If you want to just eat 'cause you're hungry, you steal because you don't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get lost, there's nothing to fall back on but the jail and the police, and then you need a family inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Say, hey, I got your back. And they don't say that it got your back, but you need somebody to get in front of you sometime.
Well, I can see that, caller. See, the issue that a lot of us have failed to take into account is there was 10 commandments laid down in the old. Then Christ showed up in the new, and his point was, out of all of those commandments are fine, but the greatest of all is love. Now, when you start talking about work and working on self, working to better yourself, to better your conditions, to better your fellow man, that's love. Because work is love made visible. So those of us who will not work, that is an exhibit of your love that you have for yourself. And we know in America and anywhere else, not being able to work is not to be able to sustain yourself. So we fall into the games and the trickery of Section 8 and all these other things that keep us from being viable, competitive citizens in a free world. And we wind up enslaving ourselves for set-asides and subsidies because we would not exhibit enough love to educate ourselves because the schools is open, that we would not recreate ourselves because those opportunities exist as well. We stay stuck in a four-frame cartoon world thinking that something is going to change without your participation in your own life. So we have to get back to something as simple as exhibiting love, and then after doing that, deal with the stuff that's going around you that is an injustice because it's not love-based, but it's a hate reality. Those things that all of us know firsthand. But we seem to want to just kind of go along. We have anybody else? Well, listen, this time really goes fast. It shoots past as we try to deal with some of the issues of the time. And Knock at Midnight is absolutely grateful to have this half an hour to do this show, to talk about some of the issues that's going on in the community or that are affecting the community. Anything that affects the communities that I work in and serve, I'm really interested in hearing what people have to say, as well as dialoguing, discussing, and debating what we can do to make it better, to fix it, to help it along the way. All of us know that we've passed down and handed over an inferior product to this generation. What we passed down and handed over, you should not have given a dog. And we've given it to them, and subsequently we still won't take responsibility for it. I think that's probably the hardest part, is that we won't even deal with our own injustices so that our own children can get justice. So we have to stand up, change some things. One of the things that we're doing on tonight, this evening, we're going to depart. We're going to depart from a Knock at Midnight. We're going to take a group of students from the Inglewood community down to Atlanta, Georgia, and introduce them to the principles, the life, the times, and the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, as visit some of the historically black colleges, but give them an education and a historical perspective of their own reality of what it really took for them to get where we are today, not as just a black people, but as Americans. How did we get where we are? And we have to introduce our children properly to things that will affect their lives, may even have a great impact on their minds and their thinkings, will hopefully help them get themselves balanced where they can do some of the things that they need to do. You know, we're doing our part. We ask that you come join us. You can call me at my office at 773-488-2960. We're located at 400 West 76th Street on the second floor. Please stop by anytime, see us, engage with us. We thank you for being a part of this show this evening. I'm very grateful, and always remember, in the darkest hour, truth and knowledge are the way. Good night, and God bless you.